It looked like Lexi Hall is opening up about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana.
Okay, so the Indiana Fever locker room. Lexi Hall finally spilled the tea on what everyone's been whispering about when it comes to Caitlin Clark and that whole situation. Let's just say it wasn't exactly a big group hug moment. The offseason just kicked off, but it seems like that tension from the season didn't go anywhere. So, what do you think? Is she just being honest, or is there some subtle shade hiding in there? Here's the deal. Lexi decided to open up about her time with the Fever. And yeah, that includes the same locker room that's been talked about everywhere since Caitlin Clark arrived and basically put them on the national spotlight.
I think Caitlin should be the next to get a signature shoe.
Now, about that shoe comment. Can we expect you to wear it? She said she would. Lexi didn't exactly do a tell-all, but her tone, it said so much more. She's been all over interviews, podcasts, even sneaker videos, because honestly, every WNBA story these days somehow ties back to sneakers or whatever face Caitlin Clark is making. Anyway, during one of these chats, you could tell she was trying to be super polite, but there was this little hint of sarcasm. When asked about the Fever's locker room vibe, she gave that standard, diplomatic answer. I've loved my years here in Indiana. I love the people, the fans, the franchise. You know, that typical response people give right before they switch jobs and pretend it's for new opportunities. But the pause after that sentence, man, that silence was louder than anything else she actually said.
Lexi Hall is currently, you know what I'm saying, on a little media run. Lexi Hall is one of the biggest names this offseason. I feel like Lexi Hall is going to be getting a major payday in regards to her basketball abilities on the court. Now, with that being said, this article has been released, and it goes on to say Lexi gets real about Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever locker room, and offseason uncertainty.
Here's the thing. If everything was just fine, she wouldn't sound like she was reading her goodbye speech while trying to act like she wasn't. Plus, when she talked about uncertainty, it was hard to miss the deeper meaning, especially after a season packed with tension, bruises, and what fans nicely called miscommunication. And yeah, that includes those rough moments on the court where Clark took some hits that felt pretty personal. Everyone saw them. People argued about them online, and while most players moved on, it feels like Lexi still has some thoughts. Now, don't think she went full expose. She didn't name names or throw direct punches. But her words definitely had an edge. She mentioned building a life in Indiana and how she's unsure what's next. My read, things behind the scenes might not be as smooth as the Fever's PR wants us to believe. And honestly, who's surprised? This team had one of the most watched, most criticized seasons in WNBA history. You'd think all that attention would pull everyone together, right? But apparently, it just made the locker room louder. Sources close to the team, and yeah, that means Twitter threads and fan podcasts, are saying the atmosphere changed once cameras started showing up at every practice. Some players adjusted, some didn't. And a few clearly didn't love being in Caitlin Clark's spotlight. Lexi was there before Clark, when the biggest headline was Indiana Fever draft hopes. Now it's a total circus, and you can see how a player who's been grinding for years might just get tired of all the noise. During her interview with Soul Retriever, that sneaker YouTube channel, she looked relaxed, but also kind of done pretending everything was perfect. She talked about her shoes, her fiancé, her favorite pairs, and then casually dropped comments that really made fans raise their eyebrows. Like saying Caitlin probably has the best sneaker game because she gets the most free shoes.
And who needs a little bit of help?
Yeah.
I would say I think Caitlin has the best sneaker game because
Now, look, maybe that's a compliment, or maybe it's a subtle jab about how some players feel about Clark getting the superstar treatment. You can decide, but when someone says, yeah, she has the best sneaker game because she gets the most free stuff, it's tough not to hear a little irritation in there. And the funniest part? The interview wasn't even supposed to be about team drama. It was all about shoes. Yet somehow, it became the most talked about off-season quote of the week. But that's what happens when anything involves Caitlin Clark. Every sentence turns into a headline. Every side-eye becomes a theory. And Lexi's offhand comment, oh, the blogs ran with it like a buzzer beater. People immediately started asking if there's actual tension in that locker room. And if Lexi's comments were her way of saying, enough is enough, without really saying it. Then to make things even spicier, she reminded everyone she's a restricted free agent. Meaning she loves the fans, but she also loves her options. That's like telling your boss, "This company changed my life," while you're quietly updating your LinkedIn profile. And if we're being honest, Lexi has every right to explore her options. She's been solid on defense, a reliable player, and a big part of Indiana's growth. But when a franchise becomes centered around one player, and that player happens to be Caitlin Clark, everyone else kinda gets pushed to the background. That's not always a bad thing, but it's a tricky spot to be in when you're trying to make your own name. You can almost picture the vibe, some teammates trying to act chill, others clearly frustrated that Clark gets all the attention, even when she's off the court, and Lexi, being one of the quieter ones, probably just watched it all unfold in silence, until now. Her recent comments sound like the kind of carefully worded honesty players use when they want to tell the truth, without blowing up social media. She talked about uncertainty, change, and seeing what comes next. Those are classic signs of someone who isn't entirely sure they want to stick around. And really, who could blame her? The Fever locker room has been under a microscope all year. Every celebration, every argument, every single look, everything gets turned into content. It's like living inside a reality show where the confessionals never stop. Even fans started picking sides. Team Caitlin versus Team everybody else. The thing is, Lexi doesn't come off as bitter. She just sounds tired. The kind of tired you get when your team is a constant headline instead of just a basketball team. And while she hasn't said anything outright negative about Caitlin, you can tell she's trying to keep her peace, while quietly hinting that not everything has been sunshine and free Nike merch. Here's what's crazy. Once Lexi Hall's comments hit the internet, fans wasted no time turning it into a full-blown storyline. Some called it honest, others said it was shade disguised as respect. And then you had the hardcore Clark fans who took it as a personal attack on their basketball hero. You know how that goes, right? The WNBA offseason always has drama, but this time, it feels like the Fever's locker room is the main stage. And honestly, it's been you can only stack so many subtle comments, random unfollows, and it's all love interviews before people start connecting the dots. Now let's talk about the main issue behind all this. The spotlight imbalance. Caitlin Clark walked into the league as the most hyped player in years. She boosted ticket sales, TV ratings, jersey numbers, even snack sales at the arenas. Everyone knew she'd change things, but maybe not everyone liked how much she changed them. You had veterans suddenly getting asked about her in every interview. You had teammates dealing with cameras in their faces just because they happened to walk past her locker. It stopped feeling like a team and started feeling like the Caitlin Clark show featuring the Indiana Fever. That's not Clark's fault, by the way. The league made her the face of everything before she even really settled in. But imagine being someone like Lexi, a solid contributor who's been there through rebuild after rebuild. And now everything revolves around one person. It's totally human to feel a bit overshadowed, especially when you're playing well, working hard, and still getting talked about like a supporting character. So when Lexi says she loves Indiana but is unsure what's next, that's not just contract talk. That's a polite way of saying, if you all keep acting like there's only one player on this team, I might just take my sneakers and go. Throughout the season, small moments kept popping up that hinted at some tension. Nothing too wild, but just enough to make people go, like those awkward bench reactions after certain plays, or the way some players didn't exactly rush to help Caitlin up after she got fouled hard. Fans noticed, the camera noticed, and Lexi, she probably noticed too, every single day. And it didn't help that Clark's every move became clickbait. If she tied her shoes, it made headlines. If she smiled, it was Caitlin Clark keeping positive spirits despite rough season. If she looked tired, it was Caitlin Clark carrying the weight of the WNBA on her shoulder. Meanwhile, Lexi could drop 15 points off the bench and get a one-line mention in the recap. So yeah, her tone in interviews totally makes sense. It's not hate, it's fatigue. She's tired of the noise, tired of pretending everything's sunshine, and tired of acting like she's not aware of the imbalance. She's not wrong either. The Fever's chemistry looked off at times, especially late in the season. That kind of tension doesn't explode publicly, but it hums quietly in the background. Some people say that's just part of growing as a team. Others think it's what happens when one player becomes bigger than the team itself. And honestly, both can be true. Lexi's in an interesting position. She's respected, has a fan base, and is still young enough to land a big deal elsewhere. So when she said, "I've loved my time here but we'll see what comes next," it didn't sound random. It sounded like a line you'd practice in front of a mirror before an exit interview. There's also that part where she mentioned Caitlin's sneaker game. Fans took that one and ran with it. Some thought it was playful, others thought it was subtle frustration about all the perks that come with being Clark. I mean, Lexi literally said, She probably has the best sneaker game, because she gets the most free shoes. That's the kind of compliment that comes with a raised eyebrow. It's like saying, yeah, she's really popular because the teacher gives her extra credit. Harmless on the surface, but you can feel the sarcasm sneaking through. And honestly, that's what makes this story so entertaining. Lexi didn't need to rant or drag anyone. She just needed a few carefully chosen words, and the internet did the rest. Now, beyond the locker room and sneakers, there's an even bigger story, the off-season uncertainty. The CBA talks have everyone on edge, and players like Lexi are right in the middle of it. If that deal doesn't get finalized, things could get messy. That uncertainty just adds even more tension, especially for players who are already unsure where they'll play next year. And let's not forget the timing. She's saying all this while free agency rumors are swirling. That's perfect timing if you want to send a message to both your current team and potential new ones. Like, hey, I can be loyal, but I'm also watching how this plays out. Lexi isn't the type to cause drama, but her calm honesty might have hit harder than a full-blown rant. The way she phrased things made it sound like she's emotionally half-packed already. And that's why her words hit so hard. They were measured, not angry, not bitter, just real. It's easy to read between the lines. The locker room is a little cracked, the spotlight's too bright, and Lexi's patience might be wearing thin. So what do you think? Was Lexi just being honest, or did she quietly call out the locker room drama everyone's been pretending doesn't exist? Either way, Indiana's offseason isn't going to be quiet.